Hey, what's up, everyone? Alex here from Computer Headquarters. Today, we're going to talk about my Tri-Charge Stacking Discharge Slayer here in Path of Exile 3.26. And yeah, you know what? This isn't my first time making a discharge build. I'm a big fan of builds that require stacking charges. I'm also a big fan of discharge in general. So I did do a discharge build back in Freesia. Let me see if I can find the thumbnail here. This one right here. I only had 100 views or something. I know Freesia wasn't crazy popular, and that wasn't unusual for me to get 100 to 200 views because my channel is pretty small here. But today we're doing a lot more damage. This build I went and checked a minute ago. It was doing about 26 million damage, and it was great for just clearing all of the minions, regular, whites and blues, maybe some rares. But it wasn't anything close to the damage we're doing here today, which I'm just going to sneak preview you guys. We're at 4.4 billion damage on POB here. So this is definitely the biggest God, if I could talk, POB damage I've ever seen for any of my builds. And if you guys have watched my channel before, you know I'm a big Tri-Charge stacking Frenzy of Onslaught player. That's my main build I like to play. I've made tons of videos. In fact, I looked a minute ago. I think I've made something like 20 videos, maybe more, of Tri-Charge stacking Frenzy of Onslaught Slayer, which is definitely a better build than this. The build that we're going to talk about today, this Discharge build, is cool. It's like a meme. It was a fun project. It's not like a daily driver build. It's more of just like a fun thing to work on. And to say, hey, could I make this work? Can I do this thing? Yeah. So the first thing, now that I've talked about all these little things like that, and I just want to, because this is Computer Headquarters, my channel, did build a new computer in the past week. It's pretty sick. And I switched the webcam here to a Insta360 Link 2, and I have to say the quality is so crystal clear. I cannot believe it. And it also can like track or something like that. There's like a gimbal on it and stuff. And so yeah, some new things going on with the video. And I've also switched to, this side. I used to have a microphone, which is, it's back here somewhere, an actual like physical microphone. And I switched to this headset's mic because I think it actually sounds better, surprisingly, even though it's a headset mic. All right, let's talk about a bunch of important stuff. First of all, let's talk about Surgeon General. This guy is the man. Pretty small YouTuber, only 10,000 subscribers, still significantly bigger than my YouTube channel. But his videos are top notch. Like, his video editing is amazing. The way he delivers the story of the video, like, he's about as good as it gets. And not only that, but the interactions he finds in the game. Like, he's doing builds that nobody else is doing. And earlier in this league, I was like, I got to make a discharge build at some point, because now that we have Bound by Destiny, I could get a little bit more stacks than we could before. So I was already planning on making one. I didn't know how I was going to do it and whatever, but he ended up making this endurance looper video 3 weeks ago. And that kind of got me thinking about some new tech I could throw into it based on what he said here. So I was already thinking about doing this discharge build with a little bit of that tech. But then, like, literally a couple days before I was about to start making it, he came out with this video, one-shot discharge, a spin on the Discharge Slayer in Mercenaries League. And that was like the big catalyst I had that got me really super duper excited, because all of the things I was kind of planning on doing, he taught me kind of how to do it better. And I'm not trying to be like rude or a one-upper, but I happen to have already owned gear that could kind of take what he did with his build and multiply it by a lot, because I had a crazy budget available of gear that I already had purchased, basically, right, for my Tri-Charge Frenzy of Onslaught build. So I went from that, and then I even went a little bit crazier, and I also borrowed something from a buddy. So we'll go through all that stuff, but I really recommend, first of all, if you're thinking about making a discharge build along these lines, watch his video, because he says, Surgeon General, he says a bunch of stuff in this video that's really important that I'm going to spend so much time talking about gear and stuff and he doesn't. He talks about like mechanics and interactions. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that stuff, okay? Because you can just watch his video and he's going to explain it way better. So, yeah, let's just talk about some of like the really basic mechanics. He's using double void batteries, which I'm doing as well. But what's really important here that you can't really skip out on is you have to have a Scold's Bridle, and so I'm also doing that. He has +2 levels to socketed aura gems, which that was pretty cool. He was able to get that. I think there's a world where that would help out. What is he wearing in his helmet? Yeah, Purity of Fire. He's getting extra levels on Purity of Fire and Determination. Now, I can't use Purity of Fire or Determination because I'm using a Sublime Vision for another power charge. So that's just, we're going 2 different routes. He was going a different side of the tree. He's a lot on the left side. I'm on the right side. I'm more ES. I was actually trying to do CI with this build, and I was doing that at one point, but I switched off of CI. We'll talk about that in a minute too, but sorry, I'm kind of going all over the place. But the Admiral is kind of like the big deal because of the mercs. So we're doing the Admiral. We're doing the Skull's Bridle. We're using Bladefall of Charthus to hit ourselves with Skull's Bridle. And then we're doing an Elegant Hubris with Victario, so we're getting Supreme Grandstanding. And then we're hitting ourselves and then generating charges. We're hurting ourselves and yeah, we're counting ourselves as an enemy. And now we're getting our charges that way. And now because of our rings, we're able to, and other things, we're able to build those charges faster. So let's go into game and take a look at the gear. So I'm wearing, of course, like I said, 2 void batteries, right? And they're both Crusader Warlord influenced. And I'm doing that because I'm using a Bound by Destiny, and I'm getting 2 notables in particular on my Bound by Destiny that are important. One of them is giving me an additional power charge. The other one is giving me endurance charges per second. So this is great. This void battery on the right hand over here in particular is pretty sick because it also has a 30 quality on it, and because it has the harvest enchant for getting a little bit more AoE. It's just a pretty sweet, awesome item. So now we also have our Skuld's Bridle. You cannot get influences on Skuld's Bridle, or I would have went for that. But it does have a power charge, of course. We need that, and that's kind of the main thing. And then we're wearing the Admiral, as I mentioned, and we're getting the really important thing is +2 levels of socketed AoE gems. If you could somehow hit the lottery, what you'd also want is something like +2 levels to socketed would be like fight. Let's look at Discharge. It could be, oh yeah, I don't think you can get fire, cold, or lightning. So it would be the best you get is +2 AoE and then +1 all, and that would be the ideal Admiral. I don't think I saw any of those ever for sale, like in the whole, even people offline. Here is our Badge of the Brotherhood, which has Crusader influence and overcharge. I have another really amazing Badge of the Brotherhood that has double anoints and double influence, but the anoints do not match up with what we needed for this build, so we swapped back to this one. Thankfully, this had never sold this league, so I was able to swap back over to it. In the video that Surgeon General has, he talks about getting a power charge ring that also has 15% chance that if you gain a frenzy charge, you instead gain up to your maximum number of frenzy charges. It's funny. He said that in the day or 2 before that. I not only made this one that I'm wearing, I made 2 in one sitting. Really, really super duper lucky, and it's literally what I was going for, because I needed that same thing for a Flicker Strike build that I actually put out. I put that video out a little bit ago. If you guys want to check that out, this is like a little side mention, but this is the Flicker Strike video. It was insanely good. I don't remember what the damage was, but it was like maybe 400 million or something crazy. It was really good at doing most things in the game. And I'm sorry, I'm cycling between all these things I set up on my OBS to make this video. So, we've got our gloves. David crafted these for me. I talk about David a lot. He's my buddy, and he is a way better Path of Exile player than I am, and a better crafter, and teaches me a lot of the things. Everything I know about Path of Exile is pretty much David teaching me how to do it. And so, yeah, we made these Crusader Warlord, so we're same thing as other stuff. And, of course, we would have loved to get Eldritch Implicits, but we didn't have, there's literally no space for it. to get all the things we need. And in a perfect world, if I wanted to put a lot of time and effort, we could have crafted these gloves to have a 10% chance that if you were going to get a frenzy charge, you'd get full maximum frenzy charges. That is a possible elevated warlord prefix, I think it is, on these gloves. We tried. We poofed the gloves twice. It was really expensive, and we kind of just didn't want to spend any more time on it. It's a very expensive craft to do, and yeah. So, but that's possible. You could do that if you want to do this. But these gloves are good. It's giving us a bunch of ES and some resistances and some attributes, right? We have this is David's belt, not mine. I wish it was mine. Double influenced Crusader Hunter belt here. Mage blood belt, of course. And these are worth like 4 or 5 mirrors or something crazy like that. And David actually chanced this himself at the crafting bench just a couple days ago. And then finally, we have Inya's Epiphany boots, and these are Crusader Warlord. Sorry, I was like, why? What's special about these? Yeah, Crusader Warlord again. Now I also have a pair of Relicash boots that I was playing with at first, but I've switched over to the Inyas, and it just kind of helps because now we can do Kalander's Touch with the ring and get our power charge percent, max power charge here on the boots. It just kind of made more sense. So we're using a bottled faith flask, and then the flask stuff can really change around a lot. I honestly didn't spend a bunch of time dialing the flasks in. I kind of just used what I already had from my Frenzy of Onslaught build. So there could be something wrong on here, but I think it's fine. Okay, we talked about all the gear. Let's talk about jewels. So obviously I have an empty jewel socket here, and I could throw something in there if I wanted to, and it's not really important. This is just how it all shook out. But I did drop Frenzy, so Surgeon General is using Frenzy on a 4-link, so he can build his Frenzy charges back up, and I'm just not doing that because I'm more of like a one-hit wonder on this build. So I just don't need it to get maximum frenzy charges because I'm going to one-shot everything anyway. And he kind of was too, but he was able to map a little bit more. And this version that we're talking about right now is like one shot. So it made sense to drop this. And instead on our 4-link, we're doing a Divine Ire of Disintegration because it's your absolute highest shock percent potential with Divine Ire of Disintegration in this 4-link. And I'm getting tested and true 50% shocks with this Divine Ire of Disintegration, which gives us a bunch more damage. Also, he had Galvanic Field, and I dropped that as well. And he was doing Mark on Hit Assassin's Mark, and it just made, because now we're not doing hits, we're just self-casting Assassin's Mark. I'm just mostly talking about differences right now. Shock Nova is another play you could do instead of Divine Ire if you're like trying to, let's say, do like a feared or something like that, and you want to hit everyone around you instead of like a one shot or one target. That is something I haven't checked how big of a shock we'd get with this, but it's another thing, but it would AoE shock, so that'd be pretty awesome. Okay, in our left wand, we're doing Inspiration with Bladefall of Charthus. That's needed for the build to work correctly. We're doing a Righteous Fire linked with Empower and Awaken Elemental Focus support in our right side, so that is buffing the RF up to 25 to give us a lot more spell damage. Our Scold's Bridle also has an empty socket, so we have 2 empty sockets. There's plenty of room to theorycraft more stuff into this, by the way, but it's already so good that I feel like this is a good place to make the video. But we've got Arcane Surge, Frost Blink, and Assassin's Mark. We could easily put Assassin's Mark into this wand over here, and then make this a Frost Blink with like a 4-link or something, maybe faster cast in there or something. Okay, here's our big boy 6-link, Awakened Empower support. This is going for 2 mirrors right now. I was able to convince someone to trade with me. I basically traded an Original Sin plus like all of the money I had left in my bank at the time, and thanks to him, he said yes. So that boosts our damage quite a bit from a regular Empower, even though it's just one more level. It really did matter. Power charge on crit. Hypothermia is not actually the best thing to put here. It's just convenient because it's green. Sorry to interrupt the middle of this video, but I'm editing right now, and I realized I did something that didn't make any sense because I didn't read. hypothermia is really strong, but it requires you to chill the enemy. And with everything I was doing in the demo I'm going to show you, I have no way of chilling the enemy. All the gems I'm talking about right now, there's no chill really for a one shot, right? So I'm going to show you how you can. I'm not going to do it in the demo because I'm not going to go back and redo all the demo I did. But all you need to do is add something like awakened added cold damage. I mean, it could probably just be added cold damage. You could probably use Ice Bite instead as well. And you'd put that with the Divine Ire. I actually did test this with the awakened added cold damage. You charge it up, you pew, and boom, you're going to shock and chill. And it doesn't matter how big the chill is, you just need any chill. Okay, back to the video. So I could actually have more damage without this. Concentrated effect, which is also, this is different than what Surgeon General is doing. And then Discharge, of course, and then Awaken Elemental Focus Support, which I think is another thing he wasn't doing that I found was a better, more damage thing. So I think I covered everything except the auras. We've got Enlighten 4 with Discipline, of course, Arctic Armor, and Petrified Blood. So we're doing Petrified Blood to put us at low life, and with low life, it's a good time to talk about the tree. We have Pain Attunement, 30% more spell damage when on low life. Remember, guys, this isn't 30% spell damage. This is 30% more spell damage, which is important, okay? This is a big damage boost. So this is another thing that Surgeon General was not doing, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't really up in that part of the tree, so it wouldn't really make sense for him. And okay, so we're going to talk about the tree a little bit. Let's start with the jewels. So we've got a bunch of crit multi-jewels. Most of them have 3 crit multis plus like something like all attributes or some resistances. And then I think we have 3 of them. So I think 8 of those like that with 3 crit multis. And then we have 3 jewels that are 4 times crit multi. So those are pretty expensive. And then we have 3 passive voices. So those are pretty pricey. This is a pretty big budget build, but not a big enough budget to have 3 1 passive voices, unfortunately. Now that this was like, I spent literally all my money and I borrowed the belt, so it's still probably the most I've ever had. Not even close. The most I've ever had on a build. But anyway, so those are the jewels. And then we have unique jewels like Bound by Destiny I mentioned, and this is just the same Bound by Destiny I was using my Frenzy of Onslaught guy. I'm not getting the Hunter modifier on here because I don't have 2 Hunter things, but the other things I am getting. The Warlord giving me the Endurance charges, which is helping a lot, and then the Maximum Power charge, of course, is awesome. And let's see, where are our other unique jewels? We have a Sublime Vision. I mentioned this earlier, but we're getting another Power charge. It's 39%. These are so expensive now. They were usually somewhere around 70 to 100 div for most of the league, and now they're like 200 to 500. They're insanely overpriced, but it's just kind of dead league now. So we have a Impossible Escape somewhere right here. Impossible Escape, right? So that is Impossible Escaping inside of our Elegant Hubris, and that leads me to the Elegant Hubris, which is kind of the star of the show here. I'm obsessed with the EH 57860. I talk about it in pretty much every build. I have talked about in this jewel so many times in my videos about how it might be one of the most powerful items in the entire game, specifically the 57860 number. Okay, not all Elegant Hubrises, just this particular one, because it gives you so much insane power. And because I'm going for all power, like Glass Cannon, one hit wonder type thing with this build, that's why I'm Impossible Escaping inside of here. And it's actually giving me more power than I normally get with my other builds because it's a spell-based build. So not only does it have 3 notables in here that give me energy shield per power charge, and I have, how many power charges? I haven't even said that yet. 13. So 13 times 3. 13 times 3 times 3. But it also has, I think it's 6 different notables that say 10% increased damage per power charge, endurance charge, or frenzy charge. So we have 1 power charge here. That's 2 power charge there. Here's the third one. This is frenzy. Sorry, I think I counted that one. So that's 3 so far, and then we have 4 here, and then we have 5 here, and then 6 here. So 6 different notables. So 6 times 13 times 10. Huge increase in damage, right? And then this is giving us another 80% increased spell damage on top of all that. And then, yeah, so then we have all that stuff. And then we're also doing a medium cluster here, which is giving us magnifier and vast power for just some more AoE and area damage, which is nice to have. Okay. As far as other stuff on the tree, normally when you come down here to the bottom, you would take a Thread of Hope, very large, and then you'd grab stuff like this down here, like Discipline of Unyielding, Discipline of Slaughter, and definitely like the area effect for Endurance Charge. But the problem with taking these is you're actually lowering your damage, because if you have 13 charges, and then you say you have a minimum, that minimum charge is not usable as part of your discharge. Discharge damage is based on charges that are expendable, usable. And a minimum charge is not usable or expendable. So it's actually more like you have 12 charges that you're using. So I am a minimum 1 power charge because I am taking this Discipline of Forbidden. I kind of have to, right? Because this 3% increased damage per Endurance Frenzy and power charge is just worth it to lose that 1 charge. But also I'm getting, gain power charge on kill, damage per power charge. This is totally worth it to take it, right? But these points down here are actually not worth it. So just using the Jewel Socket for another crit multi-gem, or Jewel, sorry, is the play. With what I'm trying to do with this build. All right, the rest of the stuff, like, Zealot's Oath, not CI, not Ghost Reaver, because we're using life as well. My Chaos resistance is terrible, but my other resistances are really good, 84% all, and that's just kind of how it landed. But other than that, of course, so because my Elegant Hubris is Victario, I'm getting the Supreme Grandstanding. I talked about that earlier in the video, but that is, you have to have Victario to make this build work. So that does pigeonhole this 50, 70, 60 Victario having both things at the same time. That becomes very difficult, hard to find at certain points. I have one for sale if you need one, but it's expensive. So yeah, that's the tree. Let's talk about the Merc. So the Merc I'm choosing to use is the Zealotry Wrath Merc, and what I was assuming was that Wrath would be the play, but my buddy David came in clutch again and said, hey man, I'm pretty sure Zealotry is better for you than Wrath. And I kind of was like, how? He was right, by quite a bit too, by the way. So I switched all my gear. So like the wands he was using before were 40% increased Wrath effect. I switched that all out to be everything is Zealotry. So he's got 15% helmet, 2 times 40% wands, 20% on the implicit on the amulet, and then 60% on the belt, and then so another 14% on the anoint, which comes out to 189% increased Zealotry effect, which is huge. So yeah, that's... Now, is this guy a little bit squishy? Yeah, he probably is. He does have pretty high resistances, but is he going to survive like a feared fight? Probably not. But also, you do so much damage that they might not be alive for it to matter. But yeah, let's. I think we've talked about all the gear and stuff, and covered a lot of the really important parts. So let's do the demo. All right, you guys ready to blow some stuff up? I have super corny technology I have set up just for you YouTube viewers out there. I go the extra mile for you guys. So I have this really cool USB button. Really cool. It's set up for spacebar, and Discharge is currently on spacebar, right? So if I turn on Blade Fall of Machine Gun, then I can build some stacks up, and I'm just kind of build a little bit up here. Yeah, this is plenty. And then, boom. Is it a little dramatic? Is it a little corny? Is it kind of like a lame dad joke? I don't know. You guys be the judge. But I do know that this build is built for blowing up X-Arch, Uber X-Arch, and Uber Eater, which is something that Surgeon General's build didn't have enough damage to do. It could do... Surgeon General's build could do regular Eater and regular X-Arch one-shots, but not Uber. So... let's go ahead and demo one with the machine gun. I'm going to talk about the machine gun a little bit more in a second here, in between fights. So we're building up our stacks. We're good. Oh, we're good on everything. So we go in here. We're going to hit him with Assassin's Mark. And then we're going to hit him with Shock. Assassin's Mark. Shock. And then... Why you not go? There we go. Sorry. I missed the button on the first one. Okay, so machine gun. I said I would talk about machine gun, right? The machine gun, Bladefall of Charthus, is really funny because if I wear Ralakash boots instead of Inya's and I turn on, what do you hear? The sweet sound of nothingness. I put on the Inya's. It's just constant machine guns. And here's a little bit of armor. And here's the machine gun. So I believe, unless I'm misunderstanding this, I believe that the difference is Ralakash has a little teeny bit of armor, 79 armor, and nothing else on my whole gear. It's any armor. That little bit of 79 armor is making the hit sound different, apparently. Or get mitigated enough to not make it. Maybe there's a sound for an amount of hit that you're taking. I don't really know. But machine gun, it also kind of reminds me of those playing cards people would put in their spokes when they're kids, in their bikes.
Throwback Thursday.
I also want to, let me put the silencer back on my machine gun. I want to show you something in POB real quick about damage, because I didn't really show you, we didn't talk about POB a whole lot. I don't want to bore you guys can go open it on your own. This right here is me using hypothermia and not shocking. Zero shock, right? And that's 1.4, almost 1.5 billion with the B damage. Now, if we go to our skills and we... Sorry, let me go back. Correct thing to do first is shock. We actually do shock for 50. It's a real thing. I have checked it with my own eyeballs. We do shock for 50 with Divine Ire of Disintegration. Our damage goes up to 2.2 billion. Pretty nuts, right? Average hit. If we go and turn Hypothermia off and put Cast on Death on with that same shock, we're at 4.4. That's the 4.4 I was talking about earlier. Hypothermia is actually not the highest damage. I believe Inspiration might be. It's either Inspiration or something else, but you know, like a 20-20 or 21-20, I can't remember if it even matters. If we turn Hypothermia off and Cast on Death, where are we at? 2.1. Yeah, actually Hypothermia maybe is better. Okay, whatever, disregard. But anyway, all I'm saying is we do a crap ton of damage all the time. Whether we miss our shock, whether the shock didn't hit for 50, whether we're doing Cast on Death or Hypothermia, the damage is nuts. It's going to one-shot stuff. So that being said, I just demoed a one-shot without Cast on Death. Eater is way better to do with Cast on Death. So let's Cast on Death him to death. Right? Alright. That's not repetitive. Alright, Bladefall. We're watching our stacks. We got Frenzy up to 13 like immediately. And now we're waiting for our powers. And our powers are almost there. And there we are. Okay, RF. And we might not even get our shock off on him. Yeah, so he slams. And he dead. So that's how easy it is to Cast on Death. Go pick up your loot. And that's it. Well, I was going to call it quits on this build, but I got a second wind. And I did some little changes to the build. I put the Thread of Hope back in so that I could get more charge generation down here and a little bit more AoE. And more charge generation here on the Swagger point, a little bit more block here. And then instead of Impossible Escaping for more damage, I'm Impossible Escaping for more charge generation and some more block over here. I picked up this point right here, Mind Drinker. It's helping me keep my mana maintained. I've tattooed a couple more mana tattoos. I dropped Zealot's Oath over here. Probably forgetting a couple other little things, but overall I'm just trying to get more mana generation. And big change here too is I I got a precursor's ring. I dropped a power charge and threw this in instead. So this is endurance charge, max endurance charge, and same with power charge. So this is more power charge and endurance charge. Still using the Inya's boots, although I almost feel like there could be something better than this. And then I have the added cold damage that I inserted into the video earlier, talking about that goes with hypothermia. I don't even know if this is the best play. It might be better just have faster cast and then do something like second wind in that green socket. But I think no matter what, it's actually pretty good. It does map. This is just a random hydro map. I didn't even identify it. Let's just see how it goes. Oh, I also, oops, pressed a couple wrong buttons there. I wanted to point out I swapped out concentrated effect, which is really good for doing something like an Eater or an X-Arch. And I swapped that out for awakened increased air of effect support, because when you're mapping, you just want the discharge to hit super huge to clear the map, especially because I was having mana problems. So the more guys I kill, the more mana I get. So that's kind of the idea there. But yeah, if I don't click off the screen like I just did right there, it's actually not too bad.
Azardins, no, this will be easier if you hold. Oh, strong as look. Very well, it's yours.
I think I must have missed him on the first one. Oh, I died. Oh well. Oops, my bad. Maybe he dropped something. Okay, so we did that. Let's try doing. I don't know if I can do this, but I'm gonna try it. This is a feared. It's a pretty easy feared. Okay, let's give it a shot. Let's try one shot, cast on death. Get right in the middle. I think Righteous Fire is messing me up, so I'm gonna try not to do that this time. Right in the middle. Yes. I think we got him. Did we? Wait, I feel like maybe one guy's left. It's hard to tell. Maybe over here? Let's see. Let's go inspect the damage. The wreckage. Put hypothermia back on. Let's see if any of these guys are left. No, I think we literally got the whole feared in one shot. That was sick. I don't think I've ever done something quite like that before. Cool. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I actually put in a lot more time into this video than I originally expected I would. I think the estimated amount of money spent on gear was about 8.4 mirrors or something crazy like that. And of course that's counting David's like 4 or 5 mirror belt, so it's a little bit ridiculous, but I think this is the most expensive character I've ever had on my account, and it's definitely the most. This is the most currency I've ever earned in a league by a lot. I think every league I get a little bit better at finding ways to make currency. And while this build isn't one that you're probably gonna be jumping out of your seat to go build yourself, I hope it was just entertaining to watch the idea of it unfold and the end result blasting a Feared in one shot on a Valdo's map. I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm also, I've said this in a couple of my other videos recently, I'm really glad to be done making this video because it's just not my type of character. Like, it was fun to do all this work and put it together, and it worked in the end, but I just love Frenzy of Onslaught so much that I've got a couple other tricky um, plays on that build that I wanted to jump back into. And I just recently did two minion builds. I did Chains of Command and the Animate Weapon of Self Reflection, and I kind of hated those. They were good, but I just kind of it didn't. It's just everything. I try not to harp on this too much, but the Tri-Charge stacking Frenzy of Onslaught is just like so much better than everything else that it makes other builds not feel that great to play. Um, but I'm gonna do like a Leap Slam build. I think is gonna be my next video where I play the Tri-Charge stacker Leap Slam instead of Frenzy of Onslaught, and I think it's gonna actually be really good. So I hope you guys watch that video, and I know it's Dead League, so there's not a lot of people watching, but I appreciate the support. Thanks.